Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Well, the Dallas Cowboys season came to an abrupt end, and somehow I'm sitting here with two Green Bay Packer fans. This is Alvin Reid from the St. Louis American, filling in for Charlie Brennan. Hopefully you're staying warm because it's about to get cold again, but we're going to have a nice warm show here on this Thursday evening. Joining us, Wendy Wiese from KTRS, one of our founders, Bill McClellan from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, another founder and Green Bay Packer fan, Ray Hartmann, and somehow the other Joe Holleman from the Post-Dispatch ended up on the show and has already given me much grief about my Dallas Cowboys. But anyway, we're going to start off talking about the St. Louis Cardinals, middle of winter. Seems like Amazon has stepped up and is going to at least keep Diamond afloat for a while. So status quo with watching Cardinals games, but there's always that specter that we might be having to pay an additional fee to watch our beloved Cardinals. Wendy, are you going to come off some more money to watch the Cardinals?
Yes, we will. That is a necessity. That is not a luxury. I think that we had a little bit of a preview with the Kansas City Chiefs game exclusively on Peacock because, frankly, I'm a little surprised knowing what we do about Major League sports, whether it's baseballs or footballs or basketballs, that it's taken this long. But they are going to monetize. They are going to weaponize. As you said, I'm very, very confused about the Amazon infusion that has to go through a bankruptcy court. So there are a lot of moving parts, and none of it seems to be, firm at this moment. But for the foreseeable future, I say enjoy it while you've got it because you're not going to have it for very long.
Now, is this Cardinals red or Chiefs red that you have on today?
This is Chiefs red.
Okay, because I refuse to get Peacock, and we are a Chiefs household, but
right.
I wasn't going to spring for Peacock.
I understand a lot of people felt that way.
Well, it's interesting because I'm with you. I'm somebody that wishes I would boycott Amazon, but I'm a Prime member anyway, which doesn't speak well for me because when you think of the harm Amazon does to communities, the bricks and mortar, and people are saying, this is a tiny tip of an iceberg. It is what it is, and I don't know if you can blame the Cardinals or not, but any talk that you hear from professional sports teams, including the Cardinals, about putting the fans first, that isn't happening when it comes to this. They are very, very driven when it comes to their broadcast rights.
That's right.
By dollars ahead of any consideration of fan loyalty.
Well, I grew up in Chicago, of course, and WGN showed those Cub games free every single day. And I got so spoiled by that that I'm now a MLB subscriber for the Cubs.
Right.
Because I just don't want to miss any games. This is going to be a big year for the Cubs.
And I won't say that I won't subscribe because I'm with the Cardinals like Bill is with the Cubs. Grew up with them, but it's going to have to be, I'm going to be price conscious because the one thing I have found out, and I do it now when I have the games available, sometimes I just like taking an old transistor radio, going out on my back patio, turning it on the radio, have a cocktail or a soda and sit outside and listen to the game free on the radio, which I still think is the best way to listen to a baseball game, on the radio.
So I can't see you out there with a soda.
It has happened.
It has happened.
I think maybe a long bike ride. Alvin and I should...
While you're waiting for Amazon to deliver a 12-pack of beer.
Alvin, I should note that in addition to being a Chiefs, a late-coming cheesehead, I'm also a latecomer to being, as a backup, a strong a Chiefs fan, so I root for the Packers and Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But I did spring for the $6, but I intend to cancel it after.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could do that
So
too.
I figure it's worth $6.
And I'll also say that by definition, we do pay to see the Cardinals on television because the only way to have that package is basically via cable,
right,
or you know, DirecTV, which we have. So I think that I'm already paying, but I don't. Once you take it off of that package, and now I've got to pay individually, that's where you lose me. And I do have to say, Bill, now here I am, Mr. St. Louis Cardinal fan, but when they took the Cubs off WGN every day, I was really upset with the Cubs. Had no right to be, but
I was heartbroken.
Yeah,
and what's so interesting to me, though, about the people who are holding out hope and thinking, no, it's the Cardinals, and this will be Cardinal Red as soon as it's as soon as we're back in season. But we're the town that was left at the altar by Stan Kroenke, in spectacular fashion. So it's all about the money. It doesn't matter if it's the Birds on the bat or the Rams on the. I mean, it's all about the money, and we have to.
Well, I think I reached that conclusion somewhere in the 70s.
Yeah.
At a Big Red game, first game I'd ever went to in person, football game, and I see somebody come out with these big orange gloves on, and hold his hands up, and I said, "What is that?" And some guy goes, "That's a TV timeout." That should have told me everything I needed to know about sports. Was now the television stations are calling timeout.
My Uncle Wilfred, who I would go to the Big Red games with, primarily to see the Cowboys, said like, "Hey, Alvin, that's the most important person in the stadium right now." That's how I got my lesson about the guy in the orange gloves. Meanwhile, in Clayton, the debate goes on. What shall we do with the property where the old Brown Shoe Company used to be at? Now, last week it was going to be a moat with alligators in it to protect the students, and now it's going to be like a really cool maybe development, but the battle goes on. So, Ray, I know you've written about it. So, where do we stand 7 days later?
I'll do my personal disclosures. I'm a parent of a Clayton High School student and a recent grad. I also, 10 days from now, it'll be 47 years that I started my first business on 110 South Central, which I'm proud to say is now the site of the county jail. And I'm not there, but I don't know why.
That's good, Ray.
So I have a connection to Clayton and have seen it develop over time. I feel strongly now, more than I did, and I think Bill McClellan made a great case, and I said it, a link to it here on our show, and in his column, that this was mishandled, the whole idea of the empowerment campus. I think you can count that as dead. That said, I think for the Clayton School District to acquire 9 adjacent acres is the responsible thing to do. It's a great school district, but so is Kirkwood, so is Lindbergh, so is Ladue, so is Parkway, so is Francis Hall. If any of those districts acquired 9 adjacent acres, I don't think you'd have anywhere near this tempest. And for them to acquire it, and Amy Rubin, the chairman, the president of the board, made a point that was great last night. They could figure out what they need to use, and I don't think they need to know yet, but they're going to decide what they need to use, and they can sell the remaining to developers who can put it back on the tax rolls. And that is a responsible thing to do. It is not flipping real estate. It's actually buying it to protect their future of their education. And so I think it's a very good step to take. I was there last night. The Post-Dispatch had a great coverage of it. Blythe Bernard did a really good story, so it was fair. 300 people there, and I'd say about 20% of us were not there to protest anyway. But I think I think everybody conducted themselves well. I'm not questioning anybody's motives, but I think that they should do this purchase.
Bill?
Well, I think that Blythe, in her article, pointed out that the board members, when asked what we're going to do, because part of the problem was this was an unannounced thing that suddenly we're going to buy these 9 acres. So, oh, how much are you paying? Oh, we're not disclosing that. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Well, we can't disclose that. And Blythe pointed out that each of the board members had a different idea. I mean, they still have no clue what they're going to do. I mean, one said, hey, well, it's going to be something for the community, like a performing arts center.
Right.
And I thought, well, geez, if you do that, you're going to be competing with Keel and the Two Hill, and the board is suddenly going to get into the promotions business, get acts. Somebody else said, like you said, well, we'll flip, not flip it, we'll buy this whole thing and then we'll sell part of it. And I thought they're going to get into the real estate business.
That's not the real estate.
I think it is, Ray, and I think that Clayton is best served. I love the school district. My kids went through it. I think it's best served when the Board of Education concentrates on education. Blythe Story also pointed out that Clayton a couple years ago was 10th in the state and is now 27th as far as test scores go. I think it's a great school district, but I don't think they ought to be promoting concerts at the Performing Arts Center.
That's so
well,
wrong.
Ray, if they build a Performing Arts Center...
But nobody said they're gonna.
One person said, that's her idea.
That's the point.
But that view has as much weight as all of the other ideas.
If you don't know what you're going to do with it, it seems like it's just a strange way to run a railroad.
I disagree. I think that in terms of public input, the kind of thing you just said, the fact that there isn't one idea is fine. You want public input to be plenty of time to get public input. One of the things I think they should do is preserve the brown. By the way, I think Caleres should call it something.
Well, that's another thing. You want to preserve the building?
I do.
Okay, so if the school district were to buy this thing and one of the things I have to do is save this building because it's great mid-20th century architecture.
No, because it's a good place for robotics and classrooms and other things like that. No, it's good for clubs. That's why I want to preserve it.
But most people would like to know what they're going to do with it before they buy it.
The public can have all kinds of input into that, Bill. The idea that...
The public's been shut out.
But the public's been shut out. These are behind closed door sessions.
But once they have it, it will be very open, and that's the point.
And that's on whose guarantee?
The school boards always reach out. They were there last night. I don't agree with
I remember how excited you were when library decisions and book decisions were being made.
Or when the city is offering, people a chance to talk about what they want to do with the Rams money, and you're not for that.
I'm not for putting out some random internet survey about this, but I definitely think that the Clayton schools should and will listen to the public about those priorities, but to secure its future with this purchase is a smart move.
If I'm a parent or a grandparent in the Clayton School District, I want to know about test scores. I'm not concerned about real estate and development and that kind of thing. Right. I want to know about test scores, and they can't, from what I'm told by a graduate of Clayton who works at our radio station, Connor McCarthy, they can't even field a football team, right? Isn't this correct? They don't have enough players on it because they're talking about a football stadium.
Well,
that
was another idea.
That's
one of the board members had a football stadium.
Joe, full disclosure, I didn't go to Clayton schools. My kids didn't go to Clayton schools. I've never lived in Clayton. But I do think that if we ever needed a living, breathing example of a first world problem, this situation in Clayton is it. You have a wealthy school district arguing with wealthy people about what's the best way to get more wealth out of this piece of property. I think the school district shot themselves in the foot because, of course, they worded every proposal like academicians do in education speak, and we have empowerment centers, and I'm sure you could find synergy and enlightenment in their proposal as well.
And unity.
And unity, all those buzzwords. But what it seems to me here is one of the reasons, and this is from me watching the outside, that people want to be in that area is because of the school district.
Exactly right.
So they want to be there. So now the school district is saying this may help us be a better school district. And it sounds to me like the other side is just saying, no, we want more money.
Well,
we want more money. And God forbid that Clayton, because I'm sure they're running short of restaurants. There's not near enough restaurants and shops in Clayton as it is.
Because parking is so easy.
They need more of it, right? Maybe they should build parking garages.
Yeah.
But they're so worried about getting this money in there, which I guess we need more money. But it seems to me, it also struck me, the people who are saying, no, let's sell all this land to developers. If developers really wanted to do something, why hasn't it moved already?
Because the market's spoken and it's not there. And people like Bob Clark, who's brilliant, have looked at, he had a guy there making the case. It's not worth the money. But let me say something else.
It was a rhetorical question where I agree with you.
I know.
That's why it has
I know you. And my point is this, call it confirmation bias if you want. I was there for 2.5 hours. The most compelling testimony, I thought, were for some younger women parents who said, we moved to this school district and we want you to put education first. And the idea of making this purchase to secure, and I don't think this would be in Kirkwood if somebody wanted to.
No, wait. I was just going to wait. We're going to move on. We're going to move on, but I'm going to say this. We're going to move on. We're going to move on, but I'm going to say this. This debate would be raging in Kirkwood.
All right, well,
this debate would be raging in Kirkwood.
This would be about securing their education, and the fact that they don't have it laid out is fine. There'll be plenty of time to talk about what to do with it.
You mentioned Bob Clark, and Bob Clark said it would be a lose-lose, I guess, if they go in some direction on this, but Bob Clark was also in the news for another matter. He wanted to develop a property in North St. Louis, and the city calmly told him no. So, and without much explanation. And while development is needed on the city's north side, I can kind of rationalize where the city's coming from, because the way they want to develop the properties is that they include some type of retail, and other than just we're going to put something there and it's going to provide some jobs. Who knows if the people who live there in North St. Louis are going to get the jobs. But I can see where the city's coming from. Can you, Bill?
Not really, Alvin. You know, and there was going to be a job training center there too. I mean, what Clark is saying is the city idea that we want retail. You can't have retail if the retail cannot be supported. Like, you know, nobody's going to put in a Red Lobster or a Deerbergs or a Schnucks when people can't afford this stuff. And it might be a chicken and an egg thing, but if the city's saying, we want retail, and you can't get the retail people to go along with it, I don't know what you're going to do.
I am 100% in favor of Bob Clark. The idea that the city would look the gift horse in the mouth is unfathomable to me. And the fact is that this, you know, it's so interesting. I mentioned I'm friends with Clark, but he and I 100% disagree in Clayton. I don't think there should ever be a red penny of corporate welfare given to anybody for any reason in Clayton, Missouri, or Brentwood, or Chesterfield. But North St. Louis and other parts of the city is precisely where incentives are needed. And the idea that this city, and I suspect there's a lot of politics in this, the idea that the city would turn away from a guy like Bob Clark wanting, of all places, to do North St. Louis is, I think, outrageous.
Well, we all know from the Zoom Your Turns that we enjoyed with Bob Clark that the man does not mince words. No. He does not mince words. He does not care how anything lands, and he did not care with a hypersensitive city hall. And so I hope, like, you know, if there's some wordsmithing or some word massaging, because I think Bob Clark is the perfect guy for this kind of a project. And I hope that somehow they can get back to the bargaining table, wordsmith, massage, what have you, and maybe make this work for the residents of North County and for further development.
All right, but so Bob Clark gets to declare that if you live in a lower socioeconomic neighborhood or community, you don't get any retail. Catch the bus, do whatever, because nobody's going to build anything that you could use there. Too bad that you live in a poor community, but you get no retail.
That's not what it is.
Bob Clark gets to say that.
Retailing don't work in Clayton either. Retail's dead. I mean, we talked about Amazon. I don't think it's got to do with that. Retail, one of the reasons I'm against all this development nonsense in Clayton is they're talking about retail. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Ray, people still have to, like, go to the grocery store
of course
and
they
buy
do.
stuff. I mean,
I agree.
The bricks and mortars are hurt, but the idea that, well, we're not going to have any...
Oh, Bob Clark is absolutely right. Bob Clark said it wouldn't work because people don't have money there.
Right.
Now, like you said, maybe he could have said that a little bit better.
Okay, I agree with that.
But basically, he said that, and thus you're just declaring, like, well,
I mean,
so much for that.
I'm sorry, the mayor's father doesn't wordsmith his stuff either.
Well, I agree.
I mean, you know, we can't say...
Their response was, this is an inadequate proposal. Thank you, have a nice day.
That's it.
So there was a whole lot of poor wordsmithing going on. What I'm hoping is that what we're in the middle of is a negotiation here.
Right, exactly.
You know, the idea, and the city's, I mean, but the city can, you know, sort of the old wish in one hand and spit in the other and tell me which one fills up first. City can wish all kinds of things for that site. What's going to happen is the developer's going to go, let's do a marketing study, and if it comes back saying, Now, you can't pay that much or you can't do that. They're not going to.
Yeah.
So somewhere the two sides have to get together, and the city has to maybe say, well, here's our pie in the sky idea, but at some point it's got to be, what will you live with? And I'm hoping we've caught this at the beginning of that process.
Which I do believe that. Okay, got to move on. All right, we're talking about a piece of land. Joe, drones may be landing in South St. Louis, right next to where you live. How do you feel about that?
I don't like drones. You know, I am almost categorically opposed to the use of drones for anything, and especially when it comes to law enforcement and neighborhood patrolling. And first of all, the proposition in the Gravois Park area, which has had crime problems, the idea is we're going to fly these drones over, and I'm not so sure who this person was actually proposing this plan. It seemed a little unprepared and unprofessional. But even that said, I think we get locked into an argument about the propriety of drones. It used to be that if somebody looked at Gravois Park and said, oh, there's a problem there with law enforcement. Let's send more cops. Let's have more cops. Everything, a whole bunch of issues that now are is a drone issue. No, it's a cop issue. Hire more police officers in the city and put more police officers on the beat. But
well,
I don't
think
right. So when we're arguing about should there be a drones? No, I don't think drones should be circling over anybody's house at any time. Period.
I think in a post-9/11 world, because there were so many conversations about surveillance and whether it was legal and right to privacy and all of that, and then those buildings fell down. And then we stopped having that conversation. I think eventually, I know you're not comfortable with it, but I think eventually from a law enforcement standpoint and with, you know, the proper law enforcement credentials, which we did not have in this particular case, we do not have those. I think eventually we're all going to become more comfortable because we haven't identified a laboratory where we can grow these police officers that we need to put on the beat. I mean, they seem to have tried everything, whether it's the county or the municipalities or the city, to hire police officers or, you know, to man the 911 centers. It's just not as easy as that.
Yeah, we got cameras everywhere. We got license plate readers.
Right.
I don't. The thing about Gravois Park was goofy, but drones would seem to have a certain part. You know, if we don't want police chasing people, it would seem like, hey, if they could release a drone and follow that car, it'd be better than
killing people.
I like that idea instead of chases. You called it unprepared, unprofessional. You called it goofy. I think those are really nice words. I don't want to get us sued. I'll go with dicey, maybe. No, I mean, this was a really, really bad idea. I think Bill's got onto something. I think you're right that we'll eventually have to get there, but I'm with Joe. At least at this point, most of the things can happen are bad with drones flying over.
Okay, most things. I like how you said that because things I said. This Washington University entering into a kind of I don't know, partnership with a private firm to do research and development. I don't think anything but bad can come out of that, Bill.
Well, I was going to say this is the one topic where we'll all be in agreement. This is a good thing. WashU, their scientists hooking up with these businessmen who are going to sell the drugs and creating new drugs to help people who are ill. It just sounds like a great thing.
But is an institution of learning supposed to be doing that? Aren't they supposed to be teaching and educating and using every dollar of that astronomical tuition?
They're also a research university, and they're doing research. And once they do research, this is getting it out there to the people.
One of the most
I don't have a problem.
prestigious medical schools in the world is Washington University. So you're okay if it's operating under that umbrella.
Sure I am.
Alvin.
The more research they can do, the better.
It is stunning that my fellow founder could be this wrong about Clayton and this right about Washington University.
Actually, I'm right about both of them.
We'll have to play the tape. But I think Washington University is a research institution. Good for them that they're
a national research. Why do they have to team up with a pharmaceutical company? I don't think that's a good idea.
I think it's That's how
like
you do the
pharmaceutical
research.
companies.
I don't
Actually, I
like
have a
them.
pharmaceutical story in that when everybody else was getting trashed out during the recession 20 years ago, I was big on pharmaceuticals and did really, really well. So as much as I hate them, I love them. You know, it's just one of those
We
things.
hate them until we're sick.
Right.
Yeah.
It's amazing watching
happy.
so many liberals embrace big pharma now. Oh,
Well,
I've always embraced big pharma.
Well, I am not, and they wouldn't necessarily be my first choice, but I'm not. I don't think any time soon going to be the chancellor of Washington University. I just think that the fact that they're forward-looking on an important area in research is a positive.
Okay, it's the whole.
I mean, I don't know
this whole.
Are you a university
junction,
or
are you a university?
company?
And also, this is at a time where tuition is astronomical. Now, Washington University is a private school. I get that. Their tuition has always been pretty high compared to other
So is
colleges.
their endowment.
But there you go. The endowment is huge, and there's something about this that just makes the hair on my neck stand up, and I don't know if maybe it'll turn out fine, but I'm weary. All right, or leery, not weary. I'm weary.
You're weary
Let's go
and
to the
leery.
letters.
You're weary and leery.
What a PR disaster for the Clayton schools it was, only deepening public suspicions that the Caleres deal is really about laying the groundwork for an unpopular merger with another district. Essentially, better together through the back door. That by Jesse Adams. Please, please, please write us a county jingle, Bill McClellan. I would sing it to all potential residents I know. That from Rachel. We should have the city and county use the Rams money to fund the merger of the city and county. That would be the most impactful use that would create true economic growth for the community. That by David Burles. And I live in the city. What I want is a larger police force, traffic enforcement, safety. Use the rest to revitalize the riverfront. Make the city safe and beautiful. Good things will follow. This is not difficult. I wish it was that easy, Gary. Gary Durham of St. Louis. You can write to Donnybrook, care of 9 PBS, 3655 Olive Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. You can send us an email to donnybrook@9pbs.org, tweet or X to hashtag DonnybrookSTL. You can call us on the comment line, 314-512-9094. And check out our podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, and tune in. Joe Holleman tuned in with us today. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. Thank you all for hanging out with all of us on Donnybrook. Charlie will be back next week. And once again, stay warm. Going to be a little bit of cold, and I am rooting for the Packers to beat the 49ers.
Go,
Yeah, have a good night.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9 PBS.